People who used to not believe in ghosts but do now. What experience changed your mind? Episode 2. So weird story that made me quickly question what was real and what wasn't. When I was around, let's say 8 years old and my brother was 6, we had been playing video games in my room while my dad and mom watched football downstairs. For a while we had lots of fun. That was until I had a really bad chill down my spine. I shrugged it off before I noticed my brother get a chill as well. He continued playing the game, so I just thought, if he wasn't worried then neither should I be. Everything went smoothly well, not for long. My brother paused the game. "Do you hear that?" he asked. I then heard a humming sound of what seemed to be a little girl. I nodded. "The humming, right?" I asked him. He nodded as well. The humming was coming from the hallway right outside our room. We began to be very nervous because me and my brother were the only children in the house. The door was shut thankfully, so we did not see anything. After a few seconds of the humming, it stopped and we heard footsteps from the attic. The thing about the attic though is that nobody ever really goes up there. At the time neither me nor my brother had been ever up there, and my parents only went up there once each. Once the footsteps stopped and nothing else happened, we opened the door to see only the hallway. The next day we told our parents in great detail what had happened, and they did the whole parent thing saying, "Oh, you probably just heard us. It was your imagination." Needless to say, if I didn't believe in ghosts before that incident, now I did. I don't know if it was an actual ghost or if I was just freaking tired. I was alone at the flat and was pulling an all-nighter before a big event the following day. I decided to lie down on my bed to relax a bit and took the fetal position on my queen-size bed. The lights were on, my laptop was on and the temperature was normal. Suddenly I hear a voice saying, "My name is Alice." I've always wondered what it would be like to attempt a convo with a ghost and decided now was the freaking time to do it. So I reply, "Hi Alice." My body then proceeds to go into shock, like an electric bolt is raging around my body. I had no control over it. Every cell in my body was vibrating. I kept repeating a prayer until the shaking stopped, and then stood up and continued the work I was doing. My dad died. After I found out I went home. My parents were separated, so my mom and dad each had a house. My mom is disabled and has a 2-story house. It's very hard for her to go up and down the stairs. My old bedroom was upstairs. I got in the house about 2 in the morning with my husband. We were laying in the bed and my husband instantly fell asleep. I was too upset to sleep. My door was cracked and I saw a shadow pass by my door. I thought it was my mom checking to make sure I got home okay. After a few hours of not sleeping I went downstairs to get coffee and my mom was there. I said thanks for checking on me last night. She looked very confused and said I didn't go upstairs at all last night. I'm convinced it was my dad checking on me. I have 2 stories. The first used to happen when I lived in a large house that had been converted into several flats in South London. There was one flat above me and my wife and we knew the woman upstairs quite well, and we would know she was out because her car wouldn't be in the shared driveway. On many occasions, when the upstairs neighbor was out I would hear footsteps in the flat above me, even though we knew the upstairs neighbor wasn't home. The floors were wooden, and I could hear the wood creaking during the footsteps, so it was definitely something moving around up there. The upstairs neighbor didn't have a partner or friends that may be staying over. It was also far too small for anyone to live up there without us hearing or knowing. The second is a bit more strange than the first. In around 2001 a good friend of mine died of cancer in his early 20s. He was a tall guy called James, and he had short blonde hair. Fast forward to around 2010 and my best friend's nephew, who was about 7 at the time, was round at his grandmother's house. The nephew was out in the hallway playing by himself when his grandmother, my best mate's mother, heard the young boy start up a conversation with someone in the hallway. The grandmother didn't think much of it as kids often chatter when they play, but when the nephew came into the front room the grandmother asked who he was talking to. The nephew said he was talking to James out in the hallway. Naturally the grandmother was a bit alarmed that someone was in the house talking to a child. She asked the nephew a few more questions about who he was talking to out in the hallway, and of course he gave a good description of my friend James, who had died 10 years or so beforehand and had been to the house many times before he died. The nephew would have never met James as he wasn't born when James died and would have had no reason to lie or make something up like that. That one gives me goosebumps even as I write it. Since this post is getting more traction than I expected, I'll throw in a story of my own. I lived in a haunted house for basically all of my life. It used to scare the heck out of me when I was little, but I basically just got desensitized to it. We always experienced hearing footsteps, voices upstairs when everyone was downstairs, dogs following nothing around the room. Typical ghost stuff. Some of the stranger experiences include my grandma seeing her mother in her room at night, my mom seeing a ball of light floating in our hallway, my brother and I separately heard fingernails tapping on the walls of our bedrooms, and when we called our mom in to listen the sounds would stop, then as soon as mom left it would start again. We experienced this at different times, my brother for a week or so and then me, and without knowing that the other one was having the same experience. I had a desk toy in my room that had a little foam ball hanging from a chain on it. My cousin and I were playing video games and the ball randomly bounced like someone had tapped it from below. The kicker was when my mom started feeling like something was climbing into bed with her. She describes it as like a dog trying but failing to climb up on the foot of the bed. She thought it was my dad moving his feet, but then she felt it when he wasn't there and she was wide awake, so she knew it wasn't him. She kept this story to herself, and then a few days later my uncle stayed the night in the guest room and described feeling the exact same thing. At that point my mom waited for a day that everyone was out of the house. She opened up the windows and told the spirit that it either had to leave and move on, or it wasn't allowed to bother us anymore. Since then we've gone from activity every day to one-off experiences every few months. We've been told by several people who have slept in the guest room and had nightmares about it that there is a portal in the closet of our guest room. Sometimes I think that spirits just pass through occasionally and cause a flurry of activity. Edit. More stories. Not sure if this is the proper way to go about adding on. I'm pretty new here, but here we go. A couple of little disclaimers first. In regards to my family's general MacLeod, we aren't some crazy hippies that drop acid and hallucinate. There is no drug use, no alcohol abuse. My father owns his own business, my mother does finances for said businesses. My brother is a civil engineer who graduated from a very reputable school with honors. I'm a musician, but before that I went to a couple different reputable colleges and made straight A's, even taking classes like second level anatomy classes, etc. We believe in science and have no explanation for these experiences. In my life the basic consensus has always been that ghosts are real, and people who think they aren't are like those dumbasses who think that evolution is made up. I'm a religious person and my belief in the paranormal has only strengthened my religious beliefs. I know that in the end all that stuff doesn't really matter, and I could just be pulling your leg or I could just be batshit crazy. I will say though, as far as I know all of the stories that I post in this thread are true. It's your choice if you want to believe me or not. Buckle up folks, I've got a lot to tell. Not all of these stories are mine, and not all of them take place in my house, but all of them have been told to me by people who I trust, are of sound mind, and have no reason to lie. I don't believe most of the stories I hear, and I take every experience as a way to try to prove that something isn't haunted. I gossip fairly often, and I go into every building assuming it isn't haunted. Also I run my investigations off of the motto, if there's any doubt you throw it out, meaning that if there's any possible way to disprove an experience we assume that it was that normal factor, not a ghost. We do this as scientifically as possible. I'll start with the portal in the closet. I have never experienced that, and I have slept like a baby in that room a couple times. Never had any weird experiences, so I don't really know about that one. For a while I lived in a dorm that was rumored to be haunted. The only experience of note that I had other than just spooky feelings was one night I came out of my room to go to the bathroom, and as I rounded the corner to go into the bathroom, a shadow about 4 feet high came out of the room and vanished right before it went through me. I was about 18 at the time, and despite living in a haunted house for my whole life, it was my first time seeing anything with my own eyes. I wasn't really scared, more surprised, which defines most of my paranormal experiences. My father owns 2 branches of a business, and one of them is in a building that is over 100 years old. Since we got the place, we've had employees tell us stories about odd experiences in the store. Everything from product flying off shelves to seeing shadows where there can't be any. One driver in particular was in the back of the store and saw a shadow in the shape of a person standing at the top of a set of steps. He backed out into the front room and was super pale. He told my dad what happened, and he never went back into that room again. He quit not long after because he was afraid. If you want to get nothing, you can join my Discord. There is a link in the description. Have a nice day.